values, axiology, fancy word. I ended up using that term in an article that I wrote and got published about communication and how communication is axiologically grounded. Good Friday. Yeah, it was a big deal. It really was. And I was thinking, those were wonderful moments growing up, with your little classmates and go to church and all that. And I'm not, Gary will tell you, I'm jokingly, we have what we call Creaster Catholics. You know what a Creaster Catholic is, right?
No.
Those are Catholics that celebrate Christmas and Easter, and that's it.
My grandmother used to say that never be a bedside Baptist.
Oh, ooh.
And
that's good. That's good.
And I go, what was that? And she goes, every morning, don't pray that you woke up. You should pray every night.
Oh.
So.
Pretty good. Whether you're Baptist or, Presbyterian, Lutheran, or whatever, it's all good. Or Jewish Passover, celebrating Passover. It's all about, it grounds people. It's part of our spiritual health, which I don't talk much about on the show. I should. It's our spiritual health. It's important to have that center, within yourself, something to guide you in the choices that you make. And I'm grateful to my mom and dad for teaching me that. Such humble people, just regular people. Both immigrants, those things, those mean something. They really do. It counts. And I feel so privileged to grow up that way in Pittsburgh, in a highly ethnically rich neighborhood, poor, but rich in so many ways. I never knew we were poor. We got along just fine. And it laid the foundation. And I often say the nuns were my best teachers, and I've had some great, famous professors, in fact. Famous. I've had great teachers. But the nuns, those women, so dedicated and laid the foundation again on how to learn and what it means, all of it. I'm grateful. And that's what I think about on these kinds of holidays. So happy Friday, Good Friday. And if you have a thought or two about it, you can call the show and share it. Love to hear from you. Always love to hear from you.
You can reach us at 877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us on Facebook. I just put a question up about how does your spiritual health help your overall health? Leave your comments.
Oh, that's a great question, Gary. Good for you, brother. Attaboy. You get a attaboy for that one.
Don't forget at Let's Talk Nutrition on the Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Let's Talk Nutrition, where everything is archived and it's put up there by date and title. And you can also subscribe to that and get a closed caption for the hearing impaired.
And I was wondering, in Paris, I wonder how they're going to celebrate Good Friday today. What are they, 6 hours ahead or behind us?
I think they're 6 hours ahead.
Yeah, so it must be around 3:15. I wonder how they're going to celebrate it. It's going to be a very meaningful Easter, given what happened. They think they figured out what caused that fire. May have been electrical associated with the renovation. Whatever. At least it wasn't arson. Thank God for that. Somebody, want to burn down the cathedral. A lot of stories trending. The measles story will not go away. When I think I can stop reporting on it, a flight attendant in a deep coma, and people are saying, "Oh, not to worry, not just the measles." No, I keep telling you that it is a dangerous virus. She's in a deep coma. She contracted the measles. Flight attendant has reportedly fallen into a deep coma after contracting measles. She's a 43-year-old female for El Al Airlines and was admitted to the hospital after coming down with fever. Boy, oh boy. This was back on March 31st. And she was admitted to a hospital. This is according to a CBS News report, giving them attribution. Her condition worsened since that time, and she has now encephalitis. That's where the brain swells, or brain inflammation, want to call it that. And her breathing, she needs a respirator. She's at Israel's Meyer Medical Center. Remember, I told you the other day, I reported that patient 0, they believe, got infected in Israel and traveled to the U.S. He lives in that community up in New York, the Hasidic Jewish Orthodox community. That's been an epicenter for this measles outbreak in the New York area. Israeli health officials said the woman had been infected with measles she got it in New York, they said. Israel, or they think it was either New York, Israel, or a flight between the two locations. Both New York and Israel both experiencing this uptick in the incidence of measles outbreak. According to Dr. Itamar Grotto, quote, she's been in a deep coma for 10 days, and we're now just hoping for the best. This woman's in a lot of trouble. So when people say, oh, it's just the measles, not to worry, it's no big deal, kids get it all the time, it's not, no fussing here. Really? No, you're wrong about that. Please exercise some caution. There is yet another food safety report I can share with you that listeria, again, I always joke about listeria and hysteria, listeria outbreak linked to deli meats. This is not even funny because it turned deadly. I'll come back, I'll tell you more about it. Food safety, big theme on this show. No, this is not just something that affects other people. It affects you and me and everybody we know. I just report on it to raise our conscience, just to give you a sense of how prevalent it is. You don't hear it in the mainstream media because everything gets on top of it. Food safety. That's at the bottom of their list to report. They'll report that when nothing else is left to report. I report it first. episode with luncheon meats, deli meats. Let me tell you, just before I continue with that, let me tell you about listeria. There is reason to get hysteria about listeria. This particular this is a bacterium. It's not a virus. They are different critters, microorganisms. Dangerous, nonetheless. Listeria is the name of a bacterium found in soil and water and some animals, including poultry and cattle, for that matter, right? It's present in raw milk. Gary was just asking me, somebody had a question about raw milk. I'm not a fan. I would tell you not to do it, but that's just me. It's also made with, you also find listeria in foods made from raw milk. What's interesting about this bacterium is that you have the luncheon meat, right? And you say, well, don't leave it sit out on the counter, put it in the refrigerator. With listeria, it doesn't make any difference. It will survive and grow in cold temperatures. That's what makes it really unusual. You kill listeria by cooking and by pasteurization. This is why pasteurization came into being. Listeria used to be there was a lot of hysteria about listeria before pasteurization. You'll find it in ready-to-eat deli meats and hot dogs. You'll find it in refrigerated pate or meat spreads. You'll find it in unpasteurized raw milk and dairy products, soft cheese made with unpasteurized milk, such as queso fresco, feta. You'll find it in feta. I love feta. Brie, camembert cheese as well. You'll find listeria bacteria surviving in refrigerated smoked seafood. I've never been a fan of that. And raw sprouts. People go into a store, Whole Foods or wherever, and they buy these raw sprouts, right, to put on their salad. They don't wash it. What? Why? Why not? The incubation period is between 3 to 70 days. It can take a while. Here are the symptoms: fever, stiff neck, confusion, weakness, vomiting, and sometimes this is all preceded by the usual suspect at the scene, diarrhea. Who's at risk? Older adults, pregnant women, people with weakened immune systems, organ transplants, patients, people with certain diseases, HIV, liver disease, cancer, alcoholism, diabetes, and so on. If you go to foodsafety.gov, that's your federal government at good work, you'll learn a lot about listeria, salmonella, shingilla, staphylococcus, Vibrio infections. Yeah, it's all there. 877-897-8255. This listeria outbreak turned deadly. It has sickened, they found it in sliced deli meat, just like I was reporting. It has sickened 8 people, and 1 person has died. The 3 cases occurred in Pennsylvania, 2 in New York, and 2 in Michigan, 1 in New Jersey. All 8 have been hospitalized. The person who died lived in Michigan. The CDC investigation discovered that the meats and cheeses sliced at deli counters might be the source of the outbreak. You see, you go into a deli, right, and you see them cutting in the cutting boards, and that is a ripe area for bacteria to grow. People make all kinds of assumptions. Oh, it's just fine, nothing to worry. You wonder, is it really clean there? Did they clean the utensils? Do they wipe it down? Do they disinfect the area? Well, I wonder. Nevertheless, the investigation found, as I said, meats and cheeses sliced at the deli counters, and all of the ill people reported eating different types and brands of products, including meats and cheeses sliced at deli counters in many different retail locations. You just don't know. Yeah, again, this is stuff that happens to other people, Not true. Not true.
What's your rule for keeping something in the fridge? How long?
Not very long. I'm funny about food, Gary. People leave food in the refrigerator. It turns into a lab experiment.
I've seen those fridges, yes.
Okay? That's not a good idea. If you're not going to eat it, you put it in the refrigerator as a leftover. You're not going to eat it within 1 or 2 days. Pitch it. Pitch it. Not worth it. It's just not worth it. I suspect it would be all right. I never looked to see how long should the food, check that. Let's just check that. How long should the food be in the refrigerator before you throw it out? I tend to throw it out. I'm not going to eat it within 1 or 2 days, then I probably don't want to eat it. Now, with turkey, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, and the Easter, and whatever, people will keep, you have turkey leftovers in that refrigerator for over a week. Did you find anything?
3 to 4 days at the most.
See, I said what, 2 to 3, a couple days?
Mm-hmm.
3 to 4 at most. Dangerous stuff. Food safety. All right. Got a lot of other things going on. We got sexually transmitted disease problem in rural areas. When I tell you what the disease is, you're going to scratch your head and say, why? What I did. And New York has fined some people, and I'll let you guess for what. I'll come back and I'll tell you. We're close to handcuffs. We're getting close. Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Have you ever been to Joplin, Missouri?
No. I know there was a huge tornado there several years ago. Took out a whole school.
Okay. That's supposed to be a wholesome part of the country, right? Midwest, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It's Missouri. Wow. There's something very interesting going on in the Midwest right now. It is a strange story. In the Midwest and West, becoming battlegrounds for what? For syphilis. You heard me. Syphilis. In Joplin, Missouri, there's this woman named Carolyn Schrag, works in a clinic, and she runs this clinic in Joplin. She heard about this group called the Dominoes Gang. Okay? All right. Turns out that it's a group of men in their 60s and 70s who hold a standing game night. And you have to forgive me, but it included sex with one another. This crew shows up in her clinic infected with syphilis. Ms. Schrag says that this is the new normal around those parts. Pregnant women, young men, and teens are all part of this rapidly growing, this according to ABC News, growing number of syphilis patients coming to Choices Medical Services Clinic in rural southwestern corner of Missouri. Ms. Schrag said in the clinic they can barely keep enough antibiotic treatments in stock for syphilis, which is penicillin G benzathine. They're having a hard time getting it, keeping it in stock. Public health, again, according to ABC News, public health officials report rural counties across the Midwest and West are becoming a new battleground for syphilis. It's still, though, concentrated in cities such as San Francisco, the things you learn here, Atlanta, and Las Vegas. A lot of syphilis cases in those cities. And it's continued spread into places like Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, and Oklahoma. They said in the ABC News report that compared with urban hubs, rural populations tend to have less access to public health resources and less experience with syphilis and less willing to address it because of socially conservative views toward homosexuality and non-marital sex. You know what? This is where ignorance gets really in the way of your good sense, and ignorance meaning you don't know. Ignorant doesn't mean stupid. Stupid is something different. Ignorant is you don't know. In Missouri, the total number of syphilis patients, get this, has quadrupled since 2012. It went from 425 to 1,896 cases last year. This is according to Kaiser Health News Analysis. Almost half of those outside the major population centers and typical STD hotspots of Kansas City, St. Louis, and its adjacent county. Wow. Syphilis cases, ABC reported, surged at least eightfold during that period in the rest of the state. This is unbelievable. I'll tell you where there's another public health crisis, and it's in nursing homes for STDs. And people say, oh, you know, these people in the nursing homes, these are old people. They're not interested in sex. They don't engage in sex. Nonsense. They're having a huge problem. And in some of these retirement villages, I'm not making this up. You can check it out. I could get into some detail with you. There's a community here. I'm not going to mention it because I don't want to, besmirch the reputation of the center. It's a retirement center, and it's supposed to be one of the whiz-bang retirement centers, high-end, this and that, and all that. They got an STD problem. It's off the chain. So they're not those people in those retirement centers are not playing tiddlywinks. I can tell you that. Apparently, right, Gary?
Oh yeah.
Like, old people are not interested in that. Really? Yeah, I got news for you, brother. Yeah. 877-8. You can't make this stuff up. This is a daytime show. There's stuff I could report that would really, do a shock face on. I have to edit things out. There's some stories I can't even report. 877-897-8255. 877-897-TALK. If we were in the evenings, I would probably report on some more edgy stories.
I'm already getting comments through Facebook, so.
You are? Jeez. People complaining that I'm reporting on this?
No. They know what you're talking about.
Oh, they do? They're aware?
Yes.
They're aware?
Yes.
Of course they're aware. Nobody talks about it. It's an epidemic. I'm telling you, you check it out. You'll see. Retirement villages. Oh God. I have my nice house. I stay by myself. I'm in good shape. It's all good for me, man. I don't have to do my work. Yeah. My daughter's coming down today. Gonna spend Easter with her and my mom, one of my mom's sisters, and her twins, and my birthday. So it's all good, man.
Good. Your birthday is Monday.
Yeah, it is. April 22nd. That's Earth Day too, by the way. So, by the way, if you have a birthday or something like that, let us know. We'll celebrate it with you. We'll announce it.
I'd like to figure out who our oldest listener is.
I'll bet you we have people in their 90s listen to this show. I wonder who, that's a wonderful question. Who is the oldest listener and viewer of this show? I wonder if we have, I'm sure we have people I know we have people in their 80s because they've called into the show. I've asked, we've spoken with them, 85, 87, 88 years old, and live alone. I love that. You were telling me about this man. You've taken up dancing.
Yes.
And this one instructor, he's how old? 78 years old?
78.
And he teaches dance class every night.
Yep. Dances 4 hours a night. Has the beginnings of Parkinson's.
Poor thing.
And but you want to talk about just glides across the dance floor. Just glides.
He glides, huh?
It's amazing.
And he teaches every night.
Every night.
It's line dancing.
Line dancing, 5 nights a week.
Gary has taken up line dancing, and last night you danced for how long?
131 minutes straight.
Because on your watch.
Yeah, it tells you.
Or your phone.
My phone. 131 minutes straight.
Are you having fun?
I am. You know what? My hips don't hurt as bad.
Good for you.
And I can't get over that.
Keep moving. Keep moving. We come back. This is a rich news day. Target area is very rich. I got lots of stories to tell you.
Feel tired?
Let's Talk Nutrition. Doc ran down the hall. There he is. You got books.
I do. I got books indeed. I got more books than I got sense. What I'm going to do in the second hour today, I thought we would do a little tutorial on nutritional status of certain vitamins and minerals and what assessments you could have done to make sure that you're not deficient in certain nutrients. I thought we would spend a little time in the second hour doing that today. I was just checking I'm trying to get some of my library here at the station, and we're trying to find a way to get my books so that I can get access to them in my materials. So I thought we would do that in the second hour. What are some of the biochemical methods of assessment to check for certain vitamin and mineral deficiencies? This becomes important. Some people don't even know that they can get, you can have certain deficiencies, not know it. And moreover, you can get tested, either blood tests or fecal tests. Yeah. So I thought we'll address that a little bit in the second hour. So today's a target-rich area for news stories. They're just all over the place, one after another. There's a story trending about food labeling. We have food safety, then we have food labeling, and this becomes important. Food labels. People rely on food labels for them to be what? Honest. Turns out that about 32% of foods that are labeled gluten-free contain gluten. Now, to some people, this is not a big deal unless you have a gluten insensitivity. And then this is a big deal because it can have just disastrous effects for you. And this newly released study reportedly found gluten in 32% of restaurant foods marked gluten-free. The study was, they published it in the American Journal of Gastroenterology. And again, they found gluten in 53% of pizzas, almost 51% of pastas. This again, if you're unfortunate enough to suffer from gluten sensitivity, you know that it can cause severe gastrointestinal issues and distress, especially for those who suffer from celiac disease, and can even damage the small intestine. So again, you got food safety, food labeling. We make all kinds of attributions about that. We assume more often than not that everything's okay and people are being honest and are reporting properly and doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. Well, maybe not so much. A Dr. Benjamin Lerner, who co-authored the study, said, quote, "We want all people to be vigilant, but not too worried. If you have celiac disease or if it's harmful for you," he said, "to ingest gluten, you should feel comfortable asking the waiter how things are prepared in the restaurant." These were restaurant foods. So it's not so much a labeling issue there as it is the restaurant. You're going to have to. Now, in some restaurants, they will say gluten-free on the menu. The researchers tested the foods using a portable device called a NIMA, N-I-M-A. And what it does, it uses a small sample to detect gluten at levels lower than 20 parts per million. Pretty clever. Under the United States Department of Agricultural Law, manufacturers can label packaged foods with gluten below 20 parts per million as gluten-free. So it's not really gluten-free. Unfortunately, the law does not apply to restaurant foods. much to the dismay of gluten sufferers. 877-897-8255, 877-897-TALK. Another measles story won't go, I keep telling you, won't go away. New York City issued fines of $1,000. That's a big fine, man. That's not a parking ticket. $1,000 fine to 3 people who apparently resisted and refused to be vaccinated against the measles. So they fined them. We're getting closer to handcuffs. You're going to see somebody going to be doing a perp walk here soon. We'll see if I'm right about this. I keep thinking somebody's going to get arrested and they're going to handcuff the individual. They're going to haul them off. New York followed through. They threatened to do this. They said that they were going to do it, and people didn't believe them. They're not going to do that. Yeah, well, they did. This was yesterday. The city's health department issued civil summons to 3 people a week after issuing an emergency order requiring anyone 6 months or older who lived in 4 specific zip codes, all of which are located in Brooklyn, to get the measles, mumps, and rubella. It's called the MMR vaccine, measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, within 48 hours, or you would be fined $1,000. Well, apparently 3 people said, you know what? You can take your ordinance and ordinarily do whatever you want to do with it.
I was looking up pizza chains that serve gluten-free pizza. There's 15.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So.
That's the one problem you don't have.
Right. I don't eat pizza now. I don't have to worry about it.
Apparently, the zip codes 11205 in Clinton Hill, 11206 in Bushwick, and 11221 and 11249 in Williamsburg, New York, are all in predominantly Orthodox Jewish communities. Apparently, there is some issue about religious belief and not getting. I don't know what's going on there. It's not clear to me. If somebody knows, I'm all ears. I want to know what is going on with this. If this continues, they're going to start arresting people. That's my prediction. Come back. We're going to do a little tutorial on nutritional status, certain vitamins and minerals. Are you deficient? Are you tired of being tired? So was Amanda until she tried Floradix Iron. And welcome to the show, and happy Good Friday. Celebrating Good Friday today, of course, and special day. It's been Holy Week all week. Unfortunately, of course, in Paris, with the destruction, nearly the full, almost, with the destruction of major portions of the Notre Dame Cathedral. It really brought attention to Holy Week in a odd kind of way, and I'm sure that celebration today, or the observance of Good Friday, I should say, in Paris today will be a little different than it has been in 800 plus years. That's how long that cathedral was around. In all fairness, too, that cathedral was in disrepair many times. At one point, they were going to tear the thing down. People referred to it as a thing. They didn't like it. It caught up in wars and civil as well as world wars. At one point, the prostitutes were working close near the cathedral. I mean, it was terrible. Somehow it survived all of that. Wars, world wars, civil wars, and all sorts of politics and craziness going on with that cathedral, and it survived it all. It went into disrepair for hundreds of years. It was falling apart. It was dilapidated, and they go back and try to renovate it and do that. And they were in the middle of they are in the middle of a renovation on the cathedral, and now they believe that electrical fire associated with the renovation was the cause of the cathedral being ignited, and then for the world to watch the central tower just tumble into the nave of the church. It was crushing to watch. So, today's Good Friday, as I said, they're going to be celebrating or observing it in a way that is probably a lot different than it has been over 800 years that cathedral has stood. Pretty amazing story. Hopefully it will bring the people of Paris together. They've a lot of civil unrest there lately, violence in the streets over gas prices and whatnot. We're very fortunate in this country. We don't have too much civil unrest. We have a lot of demonstrations, and people have the right to. I'm a great believer in civil disobedience. I sign up for it. A peaceful civil disobedience. Sometimes these politicians don't want to pay attention, and that's what people need to do. But it's been pretty violent there. So vacationers going to Paris in these days, I don't know. I want to go in the worst way, but I'm not going right now until they figure out how much they're going to charge for gas. And apparently, Macron, is his first name Michel? Is it Michel Macron? I don't know if I know it's Macron. He's very popular outside of France. People love him. Not so much within the country. Very divisive. Apparently, he's people don't like him. And it's been Emmanuel. Thank you, Stephen. Emmanuel Macron. He's a very articulate fellow. But that's how they're celebrating their Good Friday. Amidst some civil unrest, the Notre Dame being, totally destroyed, and whatnot. So, but it's Good Friday. Easter's a good time of year. It's the resurrection, rebirth, and whatnot. All of those ideas are very important. Ideas have consequences. And they get to our values, as I reported in the first hour. This is all, Gary, you posted a question on our Facebook page. What was it?
It was about your spiritual health. How does your spiritual health affect your regular health?
Your overall health, your physical health. Of course. You put those two together. How do you put them together? And by the way, let me ask, where is the seat of the soul? Where is that located exactly? Liver? Where do you find it? Is it somewhere between the intestines, somewhere in the intestinal walls? In the brain? Where do you find the seat of the soul? I'm just asking. There's a book called Seat of the Soul. I've read it.
What's it about?
Just exactly that. The seat of the soul. Yeah. Part of religion. I mean, you ask that question, Gary. You pose it on. I'd be interested to see how people respond to that. There, without exception, almost without exception, anthropologists and those who study cultures and work hard and work in obscurity, well, you start to read that literature, with respect to religion, and you find, with almost hardly any exception, every culture has found a deity to which they, pray and appeal to. Seems to be part of human nature to reach for that. So whatever's going on with that, I don't know. But it is part of our being. It's part of our makeup. It's part of our health. In our intro to the show, you hear that woman every day. She gets it right every day. She says, and your spirit. Well, yes. Nutrition for your spirit. What is the nutrition for your spirit? I had a heavy dose of that as a boy, going to Catholic school. Got a lot of nutrition for the spirit, for the soul. And that was good. It's all good. It stuck. I think it made me a better person. And I'm not, overly religious and walk around and with wearing religion on I don't do, that's not me. Many of you are far more worthy of a better place in heaven than I. You practice your religion, your faith, and I need to do better at that. I do pray. And I think it does have a bearing, Gary, on our physical well-being. I find it, I don't think it's so unusual when people are in physical dire straits with their health that they appeal to their spirit, to the spiritual realm, and pray.
Yes. And they always ask others to pray for them too. So
exactly. And prayer is powerful. I should report on that more. And there is the science of it all, the science of prayer, and how the science of prayer has a profound effect on the physical well-being of people. And, this is not hocus pocus. And I should probably do a better job at that. I try to do a better job at a lot of things, but that is an intriguing area. You have to be careful when you march into that arena that you don't get too far out on the perimeter. Then you start to sound, like you're wearing an aluminum foil hat. You got to be careful. But the science of prayer is powerful. A lot of people prayed for me when I was sick, and I believe it helped. And you don't think I didn't pray? Let me tell you. Let me tell you something. Sit in a chemo room for 4 hours every week. You get an eyeful. You see the suffering of others, and it causes you to reevaluate and rethink and really come to appreciate what we're all about, the suffering of others. And you reach for this. You reach for that spiritual realm. I prayed mightily, and it has held on. Served me well. Still does. Hope it serves you well too. I'm going to do a little tutorial today on nutritional status. Are you malnourished? Do you even know? How would you know? What can you do about it? Welcome to this, I guess, Easter edition of Let's Talk Nutrition. And today is Good Friday, as I mentioned. And I told Gary that's my contribution to Easter. And he said it's better than a big basket of chocolate. You posed that question. Did anybody respond to that?
Not yet.
No, that's a hard question, Gary.
I mean, it is. If you really think about it.
How does your spiritual health and your spiritual well-being, does it have any connection to your physical well-being? And, the most instinctive answer I can give is yes. We could do a whole show on that. I'm not going to do that now. If anybody attempts to answer that, I would love to hear the response. I asked Gary, I said, I just wonder if people, reporting on all these different stories, do we get, you're monitoring the responses. You don't tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I had somebody just, they reached out just now and answered me about your question. They said, yes, it does.
It does.
But it's, we get responses all the time. Some of them are appropriate from air, and some of them we talk privately about. So.
Well, when a very quick experience that people have to know that there's a connection between your spiritual health and your physical well-being and psycho-emotional well-being. Oftentimes when people go to church for their particular denomination, whatever it is, Christian, Jewish, whatever, Muslim, synagogue would be, or temple, whatever wherever you go and however you practice your religion. Oftentimes when people, at the end of it, when they come out, they feel better.
Why is that?
Exactly. Why is that? They physically feel better and psychologically feel better. Nobody gave them an injection of anything. Nobody gave them a pill. There was no nutrition involved, no medication involved. No therapy other than being there praying and practicing your religion, whatever it might be. And you come out and you feel better, uplifted, a quicker step in your step.
Yeah.
Right? You just feel better. So there must be something there, whatever that is. I have to noodle through that a little bit.
Okay.
There is some science around that. Again, the power of prayer, and also being in the presence of others.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Sharing that moment. What do people do? What do people do in times of trial and tribulation? They pray. Mm-hmm. Or in the passing of a person, you go, like when my mom passed away, or my sister, or your family members, you go to church. And I remember giving the eulogy for my mom. And in that church with all those people celebrating my mother, that was a moment. It was a wonderful, sad moment, but it was a wonderful moment. And we did that in community. We did that together, right? I keep saying we're all in this together.
When I go to church, one of the things that the pastor does is he makes everybody stand up and then turn around and greet the people around you.
Yeah, they do that in Catholic Church now. You shake hands and, I think that's nice. I'm introverted, believe it or not. I know you tell people that, they don't believe it. I am.
Yeah.
I'm very shy and introverted.
When I first started working for you, that was a huge controversy at the office. Everybody was like, oh, just, Dr. Garko comes in here and ignores us. And I go, nah, that's not what he does. He's very kept to himself, and he's very humble. And a lot of people didn't realize that. They thought it was something else.
Making the wrong attribution.
Yeah.
But being in that church, Gary, and I know many of you have had this experience with others and praying, you feel better. You feel better about yourself. You feel better about other people. You feel better about your life. It makes you can physically, and I just wondered, does the blood pressure go lower? Do you de-stress a little bit? Does that stress response get modulated? I think so.
Well, starts the hierarchy of needs with security.
Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. reaching the high. Why don't you pull that up? And it's been many years. That was in God. That feels like grade school. Yeah, we satisfy our physical. You satisfy all those survival needs that we have, shelter, food, and so on. But as you move up the hierarchy, self-realization. If my memory, I'm working from memory. Isn't self-realization the highest on the hierarchy?
Yeah, self-actualization.
Actualization, yes. I was close. It's been a long time since you made me think of that. And all of that's connected to our health. So that's my, just some of my free-form thoughts about it. I do think that, and today, the Easter, and I remember, and also people my mom taking us, my sister and myself, to go get our Easter outfits. And back in the day, there was a store. It was a store called Robert Hall, and you could go into Robert Hall and buy a suit. You get a jacket, a vest, a reversible vest, and 2 pair of pants. Robert Hall. Self-actualization. The lower is your physiological needs, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and then self-actualization is the highest on the hierarchy for Maslow. But, getting dressed up for Easter, what's that all about? Well, that's showing to celebrate, it's all good.
I like how love and belonging is in the middle.
Yeah.
You got to have that balance.
Malnutrition, undernutrition. I'll tell you about that when we come back.
Don't be stressed out or anxious. Take Hempanol, the only raw CO2 hemp extract.
malnutrition. Do you know what that is? And are you malnourished? Now, welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. Great to be with you on this Good Friday, observance of Good Friday. And, of course, it's been Holy Week and it's Easter. And hope you enjoy this holy time of year. And malnutrition, when I say malnutrition, watch what happens. When I say malnutrition, Gary, what's that mean to you?
You're not eating properly.
Not eating properly. Not getting enough nutrients?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. It also means overnutrition. Malnutrition includes undernutrition and overnutrition. People don't realize that. They think, oh, you're malnourished. That means you're not getting enough nutrients. Well, you can be overnourished, undernutrition and overnutrition. Interesting, isn't it? So that's what malnutrition means. It includes overnutrition as well. I'm going to put the focus here on undernutrition. There are a lot of you watching and listening to this show, including myself, doing it with you here, who could be undernourished and not know it. I was vitamin D deficient and didn't realize it until I had a lab test done, and my physician said, Dr. Garko, you're off, you're way under on vitamin D. What's the matter? I was shocked. Nevertheless, undernutrition is a form of malnutrition. Undernutrition can result from inadequate ingestion of nutrients, malabsorption, malassimilation, impaired metabolism. You can lose nutrients due to diarrhea, for example, or increased nutritional requirements as occurs in cancer or infection. Undernutrition progresses typically in stages, and it can be imperceptible to some people. It may develop slowly when it, for example, if it's due to anorexia, which is a eating disorder, or very rapidly, as it sometimes occurs when it's due to progressive cancer related side effects. Nutrient levels in the blood and tissues change, and they can be measured, by the way. And that's the first, followed by intracellular changes in the biochemical functioning and structure of your body. And then ultimately, you'll have signs and symptoms that will appear. And then hopefully there's a diagnosis, is by history with some physician or nutritionist, physical exam, body composition analysis, and then sometimes they will order laboratory tests. Like for protein, you can do an albumin test. So undernutrition may develop because people cannot obtain proper food. This is undernutrition. Or they don't prepare it properly either, or have a disorder that makes the eating or absorbing food difficult. Absorption is associated with digestion. When your food gets digested, it has to be absorbed through the intestinal wall. You're in small intestine along certain sectors of the small intestine where certain nutrients go and then get absorbed into the bloodstream. Assimilation is associated with the nutrients then getting into the cell. So there's a difference. There's digestion, absorption, assimilation. If things go wrong you could have improper digestion can lead to undernutrition, which is a form of malnutrition. Improper absorption, improper assimilation, metabolic disturbances of one kind or another, illness, disease, cancer, for example. And you can have you can have tests done, laboratory tests to assess whether or not you are under nutrition. So then, there's certain groups, of course, that are at risk for undernutrition: elderly, children, pregnant women. Typical, right? You would expect that to be homeless people. Often when I see them on the street, I often wonder, what their nutritional status is. They're barely holding on. People who are poor, who don't have financial means, often are undernourished, which is a form, again, of malnutrition. Being very ill, and so on. Those are, and people who suffer from psychiatric disorders, believe it or not. They don't eat properly. They don't prepare the food properly. They have their psychiatric disorder impairs them in ways that leads to malnutrition or undernutrition. So, there's certain nutrients that you really want to make sure that you get, right? You want to make sure, for example, in terms of macronutrients, you're getting enough protein in your body. Oftentimes, some people are overnourished, and they, for example, with protein, they eat far too much of it. But there are many who are undernourished regarding protein. And protein status is an important feature of nutritional status. And assessing protein status can be approached by the use of anthropometric, body measurements, biochemical testing, clinical observation. You can determine what the protein status of a person is. And the lab tests that can be done, and they typically do tests like albumin, for example, transferrin, prealbumin, retinol binding protein. You'll see this on a lab report. Maybe, Gary, you've even seen it on your report.
Yes.
You've seen it, right? And that's how you test for it. Iron status. Iron deficiency anemia is pervasive and affects the quality of health. And there are different stages of iron depletion. And there are lab tests that can be done to determine whether you are iron deficient. And any number of those. I can talk about that with you. And then, of course, calcium status is a big deal. Zinc status, right? Come back. We'll talk some more. Got one more segment to go.
Want to get at the core issue?
certain deficiencies. Here's the health question for today. And I didn't give you the answer, so we'll see how good you are at this. What is the most common single nutrient deficiency in the United States? What is the single most common single nutrient deficiency in the U.S.? Is it iron deficiency? Is it calcium deficiency? Or is it zinc deficiency? What is the single most common nutrient deficiency in the U.S.? Iron deficiency, calcium deficiency, or zinc deficiency? With the right answer, you will no longer be deficient in getting a supplement gift card.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK.
What is the single most common nutrient deficiency in the U.S.? Iron deficiency, calcium deficiency, zinc deficiency. Most of the time, doctors don't order any kind of lab test to check the patient for certain nutrient deficiencies. Some of the doctors now, with a regular, blood test, are now starting to order. They want to see if the patient is vitamin D deficient, if the patient is iron deficient, for example, little hint, and so on. Calcium deficient. There are ways to test for that. And all these different, you can have, serum tests, urine tests, fecal tests. Are very, believe it or not, can be very useful to determine some of these deficiencies. If you take iron deficiency, for example, iron deficiency usually happens in stages. Stage 1, you have a depleted stores of iron. Stage 2 is what they call early functional iron deficiency without anemia. And then third is iron deficiency itself. And iron deficiency, you can feel very flat, not have a lot of energy, and just feel terrible. And it's very correctable, and we can test for it. Let's go to Oldsmar and see what Mary thinks. Mary, what do you think is the most common single nutrient deficiency in the U.S.? Iron deficiency, calcium, or zinc?
I would say iron.
It is. Iron deficiency anemia is prevalent. You find pregnant women being iron deficient, children, elderly, risk groups, people whose diet is impaired, not a lot of fruits and vegetables, not a lot of the vegetables that can help with iron stores can be another major risk factor. But congratulations, you won a $25 supplement gift card.
Oh, thank you very much.
Have you ever had iron?
I suffered from it greatly when I was pregnant with my son.
You say that again?
I suffered from that greatly when I was pregnant with my son.
What did they do for you?
Put me on just a high dose of iron supplements.
Did it make you constipated?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's a product called
Floordex, and they sponsor our show, and it's liquid.
Yeah, that product is fabulous, by the way. It's been around for decades, made in Europe, and it just does a terrific job. No constipation. My mom suffered from iron deficiency, and we always had a bottle of that in the refrigerator for her, and she always was able to get. And you feel you know how you felt. So I bet you were really fatigued when you were iron deficient, weren't you?
I was so tired. I don't think I've ever been so tired in my life.
Yeah, because your hemoglobin levels were so low, and hemoglobin is what carries the oxygen to the cells. That's why you felt so terrible. And but congratulations, you won a $25 gift card. So it's Easter. Did you buy a new bonnet for Easter?
Absolutely. Every year.
Every year. Of course, of course. Well, thank you very much, Mary, for listening. Thank you for calling today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So what do you do about knowing, is there anything that can be done to help you and steer you in trying to find, the proper test. You can get a blood for depleted stores of iron. A serum ferritin concentration test can be done. They can also test for your total iron binding capacity. It's called a TIBC. It measures the total amount of iron that can be found bound by proteins in the blood. You can also do a transferrin test, which directly measures the level of transferrin in the blood. What is transferrin? Transferrin is a protein that transports iron around in the body. Under normal conditions, you will find that transferrin is typically 1/3 saturated with iron. This means that about 2/3 of its capacity is held in reserve. And so then you can do a serum iron test, measures the level of iron in the liquid portion of the blood. Then there's what's called an unsaturated iron binding capacity test, the UIBC, that determines the reserve capacity of transferrin. So transferrin is a protein that transports iron around the body. Very important protein. So you'll see these on lab reports often. You can ask your doctor to do that. If you don't feel good, you feel flat, you don't have a lot of energy, oftentimes that's one of the reasons why, because hemoglobin is responsible for transporting that oxygen in the blood. And so you're not getting the cells aren't being oxygenated, you feel terrible. And this is very correctable. And the Floridex product, that product is wonderful. I've used it, and you don't tend not to get constipated. Some of those iron supplements, my goodness, you need to take that, and then they issue a stick of dynamite so you can go to the bathroom. Terrible. It's terrible. Anyway.
Well, next time we get Herba Prima on there, we'll see if it works with taking an iron supplement.
Okay.
That'd be a good question for Ziggy.
And I'll continue this theme about nutritional, different biomarkers and assessment for different nutritional conditions, associated malnutrition conditions. That's undernutrition and overnutrition. I'll continue that theme. I'm going to work that more into the show. I think you'll find that helpful. And then I'll show you how to read the lab test as well. Happy Easter. Love you. Your health is your wealth.
Everyone's